Hi and welcome to my channel, and this is the Lina Knits podcast, and I'm Lina and I'm coming to you from my home in Helsinki, Finland. This is episode 68 and today is January the 11th, Monday. So I was scheduled to record last week, but life was just it was just not possible. So I'm sitting down on a Monday instead of my usual Thursday or Friday. I've got quite a bit of things to show you, including one finished object. But first, this is my podcast about knitting and yarn and finding joy in every stitch and getting cozy in your hand knits. I am a knitwear designer, ad tech editor, and otherwise assist other woolly entrepreneurs. So I'm an entrepreneur myself, working for myself and for different clients. You can find me, or the information to where you can find me is below in the description box and also at the end of this video. Pretty much everything you need to know can be found on my website, linaknits.com, which is where you can also sign up for my newsletter. Alright, so let's get on with the content of this podcast episode. So, the finished object. If you followed for a while, you probably know what this is. It is my Trace That sweater. This is by Jennifer Steingas, and the pattern is from issue 3 of Lina magazine. It's also available individually on Ravelry at this point, but I used the one on the magazine. And I used the Call for Yarn, the Let Loopy by Istex, and I had the numbers of what my yarns are, or the colorway numbers I mean, are on my project page on Ravelry. I knit the 3rd size and I'm really happy with this. I love it. I love the yarn, I love the pattern, the sizing, everything worked out just fine. There is enough room in here for me to put a shirt top underneath. It's not too bulky, so I can always zip up a jacket on top if I need to. It's fantastic, and yeah, I haven't had a chance to wear it yet because it's been quite dreary here. We got a huge amount of snow, and now it's the 3rd day of rain, so it's a bit wet and slushy and slippery and icy and just not conducive to going outside. Though I should, I know. So really pleased with this one. So happy to have it done. I knit the sleeves a bit longer than recommended in the pattern, just because I like to have some wiggle room there. I want to be able to pull them down. So they're covering my thumb, or the, you see what I mean. It'll be my outdoors sweater, pretty much. Or if it gets really cold, I can wear it inside as well. But since I finished a sweater, I felt I was allowed to cast on another sweater, which is what I did. And it's the one that I mentioned in my Make 9 plans, which I introduced in the previous episode. And this one is the one I want to have finished by Edinburgh Yarn Festival, since the yarn is something that I bought from there last year. Yeah, the year has changed, so last year. So this is Mon Manet by Jonna Hietala, and this is the sort of a really basic raglan sweater that you knit inside out. So you get to knit instead of purl, but then when you wear it, the purl side is the one that's facing outwards. I've knit the yoke, separated for the body and sleeves, and I'm well on my way to working down the sweater. Again, I can't try it on because I put my sleeve stitches on these holders. I should just put them on a piece of scrap yarn or a separate cable and try it on, but it looks like it's going to be a nice relaxed sweater, which is what I'm after. A real basic wardrobe staple. Not a staple, staple. And the yarn that I'm using is by Baramu. It's their Davstone Natural Aran. I got 5 skeins of this, and this so far is 2 skeins. So I think I'm gonna end up using most of it. Which is what I calculated since I bought this yarn for this pattern. And I'm knitting the second size, and I'm using, what am I using? I think 4mm. I need to check. So this is undyed wool, 50% Blue Fest Leicester, 25% Wensleydale long wool, and 25% Masham, and I love Masham. It creates this nice marled effect. This is 100% British spun in Yorkshire, and this is shade 3. So I think they have 5 different shades of these undyed wools, and this is number 3. Yeah, so I bought this last year at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I want to wear the finished sweater there this year. So yeah, I've mentioned this goal of mine, but I haven't really spoken about going to EYF, so I will be there this year as well. I have a class on Saturday afternoon, and I will be at the marketplace on Friday and then the Saturday morning. I will be longer in Edinburgh, but those 2 days will be at the sort of dedicated to the festival. I haven't bought any tickets for the evening activities. I might sign up for the knit night on the Thursday. Not in the big venue, but the fringe events, so to speak. Yeah, so I haven't made up my mind with that, but yes, 2 days will be dedicated for the festival, and then I will have a few days for just relaxing, holidaying. I'm going on my own this year, but I know that there will be people I know, so I won't feel lonely, I'm sure, and I would love to meet new people. So if you see me there, if you're there and you see me there, do come and say hi. I'd love to meet you. There's one more knitting whip that I want to share, and that is the second thing that I've started knitting from my Make 9 list. I think that's pretty good, isn't it? That I just, like 2 weeks ago, I made the list, and now I'm already working on I'm working on 3 of the projects from that list, and you'll see the third one in a minute, but let's stick with this one first. Let me pick up the yarn that I just dropped. So, I've mentioned like a million times now that I want to knit a pair of sort of thick slipper socks. The first one is done. So I started at the toe and then worked my way up. I was actually knitting on the foot, just hit my teeth. I was actually knitting on the foot during my Knit With Me January. So if you watch that, you'll already have seen me starting these. Then I did just a short row heel, but I did it in garter stitch. And then just a couple of rounds of stockinette, and then I started doing a 2x2 rib. I need to get a glass of water. I hope I'm not coming down with something. And I just continued. This is now knee length, pretty much knee length. So I have 300 grams of sport weight sock yarn, and I'm knitting these holding in the yarn double. So I just measured occasionally to make sure I didn't use over 150 grams for this one, and I didn't. I think this is only about a little over 100, so I'll have some yarn left over after this. But yeah, so the idea is that I can wear it. This isn't blocked, so it looks a bit odd, and I find that rib, it always pulls in. So if your calf is this rib, then it's gonna look a bit odd. But so I can wear it up knee high, or I can fold this down for a super warm calf. It's still pretty high, which is how I like it. And yeah, so that's done, and I'm this much done with the second one. So I'm pretty much I can cross out this from my make 9 list. So I'm just making up the pattern as I go along, and now I'm trying to decide if I should write it up into a pattern as well. It's pretty basic, but then again, I specifically wanted to knit a basic pair of really thick warm socks. So I'm sure there might be other people who want to do that as well. Just writing up the pattern, it's no problem, but I always have to consider whether it's not just worth investing my time in, but I also have expenses, since I have a graphic designer and a tech editor that I pay for their work when putting out new patterns. So it's always, I need to consider my options, whether something is worth it or not. This is like outside of my planned pattern releases. But I'm really pleased with these. So I might be just that I want to share them with the world. So yes. Oh, and since these are long, but they're not, yeah, so since these are long, I also did some increases in the cuff, right down in the middle back. I did some increases. I think they turned out quite nice. Yeah, so, and I'm knitting these, I think these are 4mm DPNs. Yeah, so the yarn that I'm using is Vuorelman Veto, which is a Finnish 75-25 sport weight sock yarn. So together they're like worsted weight yarn. So if you wanted, you could just use worsted weight sock yarn for these. Okay, I think that's about it, what I wanted to say about these socks. Just quickly pack them in. I love this bag that I got, again, from EYF last year. This is, I think that's the brand, La Cerise sur le Gâteau, which I think means the cherry on the cake. These bags were sold by the Kettle Yarn Company, and I've got my pins that I've collected. I don't have a huge collection of pins, but these are picked up from 2 different occasions in Scotland. This was the last year's EYF pin, the official pin, and I got this Shoal Society pin from Helen Stewart. I might get this year's EYF pin as well, even though I don't like to think that I collect pins, but just a nice souvenir. We'll see. All right, so then the final thing that I worked on, that's also from my list. Can you guess what it is? Da-da-da-da. I started another crochet blanket. But like I said in the last episode, I was not happy with the granny stripe blanket that I was making, so I just quit doing it. I haven't yet exactly decided what I want to do with it, but I've put it with my sewing stuff, so I'm treating it as fabric from now on. I didn't unravel it or anything because it was just because I had already woven in the ends and it would just be long bits of yarn, but not enough to actually make anything useful with. So I went down the pattern archives in Ravelry. I got really nice suggestions in my last episode where I asked for pattern suggestions for blankets, crochet and knit, and I looked at each and every one of those, and there were some really good ones there, and those just let me down. Like, oh, I like this bit, but not this. Let's see if I can find something similar that has the same bit, and so I found this one, and it is, so this pattern is called the Ruby Hexagon Blanket by Nova Seals of for Nova Made. That's what the pattern says. So this is, well, this is my version of that. I think this one, the actual pattern is made with DK or worsted weight yarn, and I'm using my fingering, so my squares are smaller than in the pattern. And also in the pattern, each round is made with different color. So this one has 7 rounds, so this should have 7 colors, but mine only have 3. So yes, this is like a hexagon of the granny block, the traditional granny block, and I really like this sort of rounder shape, and I love these. Here are some different ones that I've made. So my thinking with this is that I'm going to crochet 3 of this sort of similar kind. So I have 1 yarn for the first 3 rounds, the second one for the next 2 rounds, and then a solid colored border with again with 2 rounds, or on 2 rounds. So I've got 3 of these, 3 of these, and 3 of these, and I'm pretty much trying to weave in my ends as I go. So these have already been woven in, and I've got 3 that I still need to do so far. And this is the first one of this kind. So I have a couple of different skeins that are sort of solid colored that I will use for the edges, and then I have several different for the inside, sort of variegated colors for the insides. So I'm gonna see, I'm gonna get tons of different combinations from them, but I haven't figured out how many I need, but a lot. So I want it to be like a blanket that you can nap under, so it'll need to be quite large. It doesn't need to be like a bedspread sized, but you know, enough to cover like more than half of my body. So I do need quite a few of these, but I'm really enjoying knitting these. I'm really enjoying crocheting these. Yeah, we'll see how much yarn I end up using. I do have quite a bit that I can dedicate to this one. And then of course I can always just take scrap yarn for the inner ones, but I quite like that they're not too different. So for now what I've done is, if I've had something in the outside or sort of in the middle, then I'll put it, I start with that, the next 3 ones. I'm not making any sense, am I? But yeah, I really like these. So thank you everyone for the suggestions. I didn't end up using any of those, but they did help me find this pattern that I am now very much in love with. And I cannot wait to have that done. I know it'll take time, probably. Yeah, so I said I wanted to get most of my make things done in the next 4 months. I've started it. I'm happy with that. And this one feels right, so I'm sure I will do a square here, another there, and maybe in a year, by the end of the year, I might have a blanket. This one does require then assembly, but I'm just gonna either just do that again bit by bit, or then just take a whole weekend and do a Netflix marathon and just seam them up. So that is what has been going on in my yarny world since the last episode. I'm feeling really positive about my progress and the project that I'm working on. I'm really enthusiastic about all of them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can subscribe by clicking the subscribe button down below. If you haven't done so already, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I will see you soon again. Happy knitting. Bye.